The life of a Buddhist monk is often romanticized as peaceful, detached, and free from the troubles of the modern world. Images of shaved heads, saffron robes, mountain monasteries, and serene smiles dominate popular imagination. Reality, however, is far more complex, demanding, and paradoxically human. Becoming a Buddhist monk is not an escape from life, but a radical confrontation with it. At its core, monastic life is a disciplined path designed to transform the mind. It is not about worshiping a god, praying for miracles, or achieving mystical powers. Buddhism, especially in its early and monastic forms, is a practical system of mental training aimed at understanding suffering and ending it. Origins of Buddhist monasticism. Buddhist monastic life began over 2,500 years ago in ancient India with Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha. After abandoning his life as a prince, Siddhartha experimented with extreme asceticism, starvation, sleep deprivation, and physical punishment. These practices nearly killed him and brought no enlightenment. The Buddha eventually rejected both luxury and self-torture, formulating what he called the middle way. When he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he began teaching others. Those who wished to fully dedicate themselves to this path became monks, bhikkhus, and nuns, bhikkhunis. From the beginning, monastic life was structured, rule-based, and intentionally challenging. The goal was not comfort, but clarity.
The Vinaya, rules that shape a life. Every Buddhist monk lives according to a code of discipline known as the Vinaya. Depending on the tradition, Theravada, Mahayana, or Vajrayana, a monk follows between 227 and over 250 rules. These rules govern everything: clothing, eating, sleeping, social interactions, and even how a monk walks or sits. Some rules may sound extreme to modern ears. A monk may not eat after noon. He may not handle money. He may not touch another person with sexual intent. He may not own more than a few personal items: robes, a bowl, a razor, a needle, and a water strainer. Breaking major rules results in immediate expulsion from the monastic community. There is no forgiveness ritual, no confession to a higher authority. Responsibility is personal and absolute. This rigidity is intentional. The Vinaya is designed to reduce distraction, desire, and ego. When every action is regulated, the mind has fewer places to hide. A monk's day usually begins between 3:30 and 5 a.m. Sleep is minimal. Comfort is irrelevant. A typical day in a Theravada monastery may look like this: early morning, chanting and meditation; dawn, alms round, walking barefoot through villages to receive food; late morning, one main meal, eaten mindfully and in silence; afternoon, study, meditation, monastery duties; evening, group meditation and chanting; night, short rest, often on a thin mat or wooden platform.
There is no entertainment, no music, no internet, no casual conversation. Silence is not enforced by law, but idle speech is discouraged. Words are treated as tools, not toys. This routine repeats every single day. There are no weekends. Enlightenment does not take holidays. Alms and radical dependence. One of the most misunderstood aspects of monastic life is the practice of alms collection. Monks do not earn money, farm food, or cook meals in many traditions. Instead, they rely entirely on lay people. Each morning, monks walk silently through villages holding their alms bowls. They do not ask, they do not thank, they do not choose. Whatever is placed into the bowl is accepted. This practice serves several purposes. 1. It humbles the monk. 2. It creates interdependence between monastic and lay communities. 3. It trains non-attachment and gratitude. A monk may receive rice one day, spoiled vegetables another, or nothing at all. Hunger is not considered a problem, it is a teacher.
Meditation, not always peaceful. Contrary to popular belief, meditation is not constant bliss. For many monks, especially in the first years, meditation is psychologically brutal. Sitting for hours in silence brings unresolved trauma, fear, desire, boredom, anger, and grief to the surface. There are no distractions left to suppress them. Some monks experience anxiety attacks, hallucinations, or deep despair. The Buddha never promised comfort, he promised truth. Advanced monks train in various forms of meditation, including samatha, concentration, vipassana, insight into impermanence, suffering, and non-self, and metta, loving kindness. The goal is not to feel good, but to see clearly. Poverty by choice. A Buddhist monk owns nothing, not symbolically, but literally. His robes are often donated. His bowl may be chipped. His living quarters are sparse, sometimes just a concrete cell or wooden hut. In Tibetan monasteries, monks may live in freezing conditions at high altitudes. In Southeast Asia, they endure heat, insects, and disease. Medical care is often minimal. This poverty is not seen as noble suffering. It is seen as freedom. With nothing to protect, nothing to lose, and nothing to accumulate, the mind becomes lighter. Education and debate. Monks are not passive mystics. In many traditions, especially Tibetan Buddhism, monastic education is intense and intellectual. Monks memorize vast philosophical texts, study logic, metaphysics, ethics, and psychology. Public debate is a daily practice. These debates are loud, aggressive, and physical, clapping hands, shouting, challenging opponents. The purpose is not to win, but to sharpen understanding and eliminate conceptual confusion. Sexuality and renunciation. Celibacy is mandatory, not symbolic, not flexible.
Sexual desire is acknowledged as one of the strongest forces binding humans to suffering. Monks do not pretend it disappears. Instead, they observe it, restrain it, and understand it. Violating celibacy results in permanent expulsion, no second chances. This rule alone eliminates most people from serious monastic consideration. Aging, illness, and death. Monks grow old. They get sick. They die. There is no retirement plan, no family safety net. Elder monks may be cared for by younger ones, or they may die alone in meditation huts. Death is not hidden. Corpses are often viewed, meditated upon, and discussed openly. Impermanence is not a theory, it is a daily observation. Why become a monk at all? Given the hardship, why do people choose this life? The answers vary. A desire to understand suffering deeply, a disillusionment with material success, spiritual urgency, cultural tradition, a search for radical honesty.
Some monks leave after years. Some stay for life. Leaving is not considered failure. Pretending is. The life of a Buddhist monk is not an exotic fantasy or a peaceful retreat. It is a disciplined, demanding, and often uncomfortable existence aimed at one goal: liberation of the mind. It strips life down to its essentials and asks a brutal question every day: what remains when everything unnecessary is removed? There is no single Buddhist monk lifestyle. Buddhism spread across Asia and adapted to radically different cultures, climates, and mentalities. As a result, monastic life looks very different depending on tradition. Theravada monks, the old-school minimalists. Theravada Buddhism dominates Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia. It claims to be the closest to early Buddhism, and monastic life here is famously strict. Key characteristics: emphasis on personal enlightenment, strict Vinaya discipline, daily alms rounds, strong focus on moral purity. Theravada monks often live in forest monasteries, sometimes alone for months. They sleep little, eat once a day, and spend long hours in silent meditation. Romantic? Only if you enjoy mosquitoes, hunger, and your own unfiltered mind. Temporary ordination is common in Thailand and Myanmar. Many men become monks for a few weeks or months as a rite of passage. This creates a strange paradox, a system built for lifelong renunciation filled with short-term participants. Mahayana Buddhism. Compassion meets complexity. Mahayana Buddhism spread to China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Here, the monk's role expands beyond personal liberation to helping all beings awaken. Distinct features: Bodhisattva ideal, postponing enlightenment to help others. Larger monasteries, rituals and chanting and community services. More interaction with lay society. Chinese monasteries often operate schools, libraries, farms, and hospitals.
Monks may cook, work, and manage finances, things forbidden in Theravada. Discipline still exists, but it's adapted. The monk becomes not only a renunciant, but also an educator and cultural guardian. Zen monks, discipline with a hammer. Zen Buddhism, especially in Japan, strips Buddhism down to brutal simplicity. Zen monastic life includes hours of seated meditation, zazen, physical labor as spiritual practice, severe discipline, minimal philosophy, maximum experience. Zen training can be psychologically intense. Masters may shout, insult, or strike students with sticks, not out of cruelty, but to shatter ego and intellectual games. Zen monasteries are not peaceful retreats. They are pressure cookers. Tibetan monks, ritual, debate, and extremes. Tibetan Buddhism blends Mahayana philosophy with Vajrayana ritual. Life in a Tibetan monastery includes complex rituals and mantras, advanced visualization practices, years of philosophical debate, harsh environmental conditions. Tibetan monks may spend decades studying before being allowed to practice advanced meditation. Enlightenment is not rushed. Ego, unfortunately, often is.
Myths about Buddhist monks and why they're wrong. Let's clear the incense smoke. Myth 1. Monks are always calm and happy. Absolutely not. Monks get angry, bored, depressed, jealous, and frustrated. The difference is not absence of emotion, but awareness of it. Many monks struggle mentally. Some leave because meditation amplifies unresolved trauma. Buddhism is not therapy. It does not guarantee emotional comfort. Myth 2. Monks are holy and morally perfect. Monks are human beings in uniforms. History is full of scandals, corruption, abuse, power struggles. A robe does not erase desire or ambition. It just hides them better. Buddhism never claimed monks were saints. It claimed they were trainees. Myth 3. Enlightenment is common in monasteries. Enlightenment is rare, extremely rare. Most monks never attain full awakening. Many don't even come close. Monastic life increases the odds, but there are no guarantees. Anyone promising enlightenment on a schedule is selling something. Modern monks in a digital world. The 21st century has created an uncomfortable tension. Ancient renunciation meets smartphones. Some monasteries ban all technology. Others live stream teachings on YouTube. Tibetan monks debate philosophy on tablets. Zen monks run Instagram accounts. This creates serious questions. Can renunciation exist with Wi-Fi? Is online teaching compassion or branding? Does digital access weaken discipline? There is no consensus. Some monks adapt. Others resist fiercely. One thing is clear. The modern monk walks a much thinner line than his ancestors. Psychological risks of monastic life. This part is often ignored, conveniently. Extended silence, isolation, and intense meditation can destabilize the mind. Monks may experience dissociation, anxiety disorders, depersonalization, and psychotic episodes. Traditional cultures understood this risk and surrounded monks with community and structure. Modern Western converts often underestimate the danger. Meditation is not harmless relaxation. It is deep psychological excavation, sometimes without safety rails.
Leaving the monastery is not a failure. It is an honesty. Many monks leave, some after weeks, some after decades. Reasons include burnout, sexual frustration, disillusionment, mental health struggles, or desire for family life. Leaving is not shameful in Buddhism. Clinging to an identity that no longer fits is. Ironically, many former monks live more authentically than those who stay out of fear or status. Real stories, not fairy tales. A Thai monk disrobed after realizing he was more attached to respect than to truth. A Zen monk left after a nervous breakdown caused by years of suppression. A Tibetan monk escaped political persecution and now teaches refugees. A Western monk returned to lay life to care for aging parents. None of these are failures. They are consequences. What monastic life really offers? Not peace, not happiness, not escape. It offers clarity, sometimes painfully so. It removes distractions until you face yourself without filters. Some find freedom, others find limits. Both outcomes are valid. The life of a Buddhist monk is not a solution to modern life. It is a radical experiment in stripping existence down to its raw elements. For some, it leads to liberation. For others, to humility. For many, to the realization that awakening cannot be outsourced to a robe. In theory, a Buddhist monk renounces power. In practice, monks often end up surrounded by it. Wherever monasteries exist, influence follows. Kings have funded monks. Politicians have quoted them. Armies have marched under their blessings. Buddhism, despite its peaceful image, has never lived in a vacuum. In medieval Asia, monasteries owned land, controlled labor, and influenced law. In Tibet, large monasteries functioned as political institutions. Senior monks held real authority over thousands of people. Renunciation did not prevent hierarchy. It created a different kind of it. Power does not disappear when desire is renounced. It changes shape. A monk may no longer want wealth or sex, but respect, obedience, and moral superiority can be just as intoxicating. Money, the thing monks are not supposed to touch. Officially, monks do not handle money. Unofficially, money flows through monasteries constantly. Temples receive donations, land, gold, vehicles, and buildings. Someone has to manage them. Often, that someone is a monk. This creates a permanent tension. How to remain detached while managing assets. How to teach non-attachment while fundraising. How to prevent corruption without transparency. In some countries, wealthy monasteries resemble corporations. In others, monks live in poverty while abbots live comfortably. Scandals erupt periodically, and each time the same defense appears. These are individual failures, not the Dharma. That may be true, but patterns are harder to ignore. Buddhism and violence, the taboo topic. Buddhism is often marketed as purely peaceful. History disagrees. In Japan, warrior monks, Sohei, fought battles. In Sri Lanka and Myanmar, nationalist monks have supported violence against minorities. In Tibet, monasteries once maintained armed guards. This does not mean Buddhism teaches violence. It means monks are not immune to fear, identity, or political manipulation. A robe does not cancel tribal instincts. Western monks, culture shock without a helmet. When Buddhism moved west, something broke. Western monks often enter monastic life without cultural support. In Asia, monks are embedded in society. In the West, they are often isolated, idealized, or misunderstood. Common problems include romantic expectations, lack of community, psychological vulnerability, and cultural dissonance. Many Westerners expect monasteries to be healing spaces. Instead, they encounter discipline, silence, and confrontation. Some adapt, others unravel. Western individualism also clashes with monastic hierarchy. Obedience is not fashionable. Ego does not shave itself automatically. Why the Buddha rejected worship. The historical Buddha explicitly rejected being treated as a god. He discouraged rituals centered on him, warned against blind faith, and emphasized personal verification. After his death, he left no successor, no pope, no divine lineage. This was deliberate. The Buddha understood something uncomfortable. Humans love turning teachings into idols. Monks, statues, robes, and rituals can all become substitutes for actual practice. Ironically, monastic life grew larger after his death than during his life. The loneliness no one mentions. Monastic life is profoundly lonely. Not socially. Monks live in communities, but existentially. Emotional intimacy is limited. Physical affection is forbidden. Personal identity dissolves slowly, sometimes painfully. Some monks adapt. Others feel emotionally starved. Loneliness is not a flaw in the system. It is part of the training, but not everyone survives it intact. Aging monks and forgotten lives. Young monks are admired. Old monks are often invisible. As monks age, they may lose influence, memory, or physical ability. Some die quietly, without recognition, having spent decades in silence. There is no guarantee of legacy, no assurance of meaning, only the life lived. This is not tragic, it is honest. What happens after decades in robes? Some monks emerge with deep compassion and clarity. Others become rigid, bitter, or lost in dogma. Time in robes does not equal wisdom. The monastery is a mirror. It reflects what is already there and magnifies it, for better or worse.
The final truth about monastic life. Monastic life does not save you. It does not purify you. It does not protect you from being human. What it does is remove excuses. There is no career to hide behind, no family role to perform, no consumer identity to maintain. Only the mind remains. And that is why most people will never choose this life. Not because it is too hard physically, but because it is too honest. The life of a Buddhist monk is not about robes, rituals, or reputation. It is a long, disciplined confrontation with impermanence, desire, fear, and self-deception. Some walk this path for life. Some walk it for a while. Some turn back. All of them learn something essential. There is no shortcut around being human. Most people do not come to the monastery because they understand Buddhism. They come because something in their ordinary life has failed. A relationship collapses. A career loses meaning. Success feels hollow. Suffering becomes too loud to ignore. The monastery appears as an answer, quiet, structured, pure, a place where life finally makes sense. This illusion is not condemned in Buddhism. It is expected. Desire always disguises itself as wisdom in the beginning. But monastic life is designed to dismantle illusions, not fulfill them. The slow destruction of identity. One of the most underestimated aspects of monastic life is how systematically it erodes personal identity. A monk gives up his name, often replaced by a dharma name, his clothes, his profession, his sexual identity, his social status, his future plans. At first, this feels liberating. Then it becomes terrifying. Without identity, the mind panics. It looks for something to cling to: seniority, rules, titles, spiritual progress, moral superiority. Some monks rebuild a new ego out of being a monk. Others notice the trap and dismantle it again. This process can repeat for years. The monastery does not kill the ego quickly, it starves it slowly. Discipline as a psychological weapon. Discipline in monastic life is not moral, it is strategic. Rules are not meant to make monks good, they are meant to make unconscious behavior visible. When every action is regulated, even small impulses stand out. Why did irritation arise when corrected? Why did jealousy appear during praise? Why did boredom turn into resentment? The monk cannot escape these questions. Discipline corners the mind until honesty becomes unavoidable. This is why monastic life often feels oppressive to newcomers. Freedom does not feel free when you still want what you gave up.
Enlightenment, what it is not. Enlightenment is not a permanent state of happiness. It is not emotional numbness. It is not spiritual charisma. It is not moral perfection. The Buddha described awakening as the end of ignorance, not the beginning of bliss. An awakened monk still feels pain, hunger, illness, and grief. What changes is the relationship to these experiences. They are no longer taken personally. This is deeply unsatisfying to the fantasy-driven mind. Many monks realize this and quietly adjust their expectations or leave. Why most monks never become enlightened. This is the quiet truth rarely spoken aloud.
Monastic life increases the conditions for awakening, but it does not create awakening. Insight cannot be forced by rules, years, or effort. Some monks become extremely disciplined but inwardly rigid. Some become scholars but avoid direct experience. Some become respected teachers without deep realization. The monastery provides tools. What is done with them depends entirely on the individual. The Buddha never promised success. He promised a path. Compassion without sentimentality. A mature monk's compassion is often misunderstood. It is not warm, it is not emotional, it is not comforting. It is clear, sometimes blunt, sometimes uncomfortable. A monk may refuse to console you, not because he lacks kindness, but because he sees that your suffering is sustained by your clinging. This kind of compassion does not sell well. It does not feel good, but it does not lie.
The end of seeking. For some monks, something eventually breaks open. The endless seeking collapses. The question, "What am I?" loses urgency. Experience unfolds without ownership. These moments are often quiet, anticlimactic, and impossible to explain. No visions, no fireworks, just the absence of struggle. Many monks continue living exactly as before after such realizations. No announcement is made, nothing changes outwardly. This is perhaps the most unsettling part. Enlightenment does not look impressive. When the path ends without drama. For most monks, the story ends quietly. They age. They train younger monks. They sweep floors. They meditate. They die. No final revelation, no cosmic meaning revealed at the end, just the life that was lived. From a Buddhist perspective, this is not failure, it is completion. What monastic life ultimately teaches. Not how to escape life, not how to become special, not how to avoid suffering. It teaches how desire operates, how identity forms, how suffering repeats itself, and how little is actually needed to live. This knowledge is not glamorous. It does not impress society. It cannot be monetized easily. That may be its greatest strength. The life of a Buddhist monk is a long experiment in radical honesty. It removes distractions, comforts, and identities until the mind stands naked before itself. Some find freedom there. Some find limits. Some walk away wiser than when they arrived. The monastery does not promise salvation. It offers clarity and demands courage. Few choose it. Fewer remain. Almost none are what we imagine them to be. And that is precisely the point. Epilogue. What remains after the robes? When people imagine the life of a Buddhist monk, they often focus on the robes, the rules, and the rituals. What they rarely consider is what remains when all of that becomes ordinary. After years in a monastery, the robe stops feeling symbolic. It becomes just clothing. The chants become familiar sounds. The rules fade into background structure. What remains is the same fundamental human condition: aging, uncertainty, pain, and death, met without decoration. A long-term monk does not live in constant spiritual intensity. Much of monastic life is repetitive and unremarkable. Floors are swept, bowls are washed, paths are walked again and again. This ordinariness is not a flaw, it is the point. Buddhism does not seek to escape ordinary life. It seeks to understand it fully. One subtle transformation that occurs over time is the shift from judging experience to witnessing it. Early in monastic life, monks often evaluate everything. Was this meditation good? Am I progressing? Am I failing? With maturity, these questions lose their grip. A seasoned monk does not constantly measure himself against an ideal. He observes the arising and passing of states with less resistance. Pain is felt. Pleasure is felt. Neither is owned. This does not make the monk superior. It makes him quieter inside. Faith without belief. Contrary to popular assumptions, Buddhist monastic life does not rely heavily on belief. Faith in Buddhism is closer to trust in a method than belief in a doctrine. A monk does not wake up every morning convinced of enlightenment. He wakes up committed to attention. Doubt is not eliminated, it is included. Some of the Buddha's closest disciples expressed uncertainty even late in their lives. What mattered was not certainty, but honesty. Teaching without conversion. Monks who teach are not meant to convert. Buddhism does not require numbers to survive. Historically, it survived through depth, not expansion. A monk may teach a student for years, knowing that the student may never advance spiritually. This is not considered wasted effort. Planting clarity is enough. The absence of urgency is intentional. Awakening cannot be rushed without being distorted. The monk and the world he left behind. Even after decades in robes, the world does not disappear. News arrives, wars happen, technologies evolve, families age and die. Monks are not sealed off from reality. They are simply less entangled in it. Some monks quietly grieve parents they did not care for in old age. Others accept this with equanimity. Most experience something in between. Renunciation does not erase emotional consequences. It reframes them. Death as the final teacher. In many monasteries, death is treated as the ultimate instructor. Elder monks often meditate daily on their own dying, not symbolically, but practically. They imagine the body failing, the breath stopping, the mind dissolving. This is not morbid, it is clarifying. When death is fully acknowledged, trivial concerns lose credibility. What remains is attention, kindness, and restraint.
Perhaps the most honest thing about the life of a Buddhist monk is that it offers no final message. There is no conclusion that wraps everything neatly, no universal lesson that fits everyone, no promise that it will all make sense in the end. There is only the invitation to see clearly. For some, monastic life answers that invitation. For others, ordinary life does. From a Buddhist perspective, both are valid.